Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a new bishop takes over the Catholic Church in San Diego. His message of mercy as he follows in the footsteps of a popular pontiff.
The fight for 15 hits the streets of San Diego today, a nationwide strike demanding higher pay for low-income workers. I'm Amitha Sharma. On this tax day, we also look at a push to have California offer its own earned income tax credit. Plus, what may be the flip side of sexual assault allegations on college campuses, the challenges in balancing the rights of victims and the accused.
Someone's trash can become another person's treasure. Meet the community of artists who are fighting to save their way of life in Slab City. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. They're demanding higher pay tonight and the right to organize. The fight for 15 took a stand today in San Diego. Workers are marching at San Diego State right now. This is a look at the demonstration tweeted by KPBS reporter Megan Burke. She joins us live on the phone with the latest.
Hi, Dwayne. I'm here in the middle of campus, and there are hundreds of people here of all ages joining the campaign, the Fight for 15. We have home care workers here, students, members of the CSU Employees Union, faculty, staff, hotel workers. This is really the culmination of an entire day of demonstrations, both here in San Diego and also internationally. Protesters started at 7 a.m. in North Park this morning at the McDonald's and Sonic drive-thru restaurants there. They ended up also protesting downtown at the State Building. And then earlier here at San Diego State, home workers who make $10 an hour, these people who care for the elderly and the sick in their homes, they gathered here at San Diego State. And now we have people from all industries joining together, calling for $15 an hour. They marched from the bookstore where students are said to make low wages, and they plan to walk to the McDonald's close to campus here nearby. And this has really been, the fast food workers have really led the charge, but this is kind of the first time where groups, all of these different groups, all these different industries have joined together. Megan Burke, KPBS News.
Amitha Sharma is taking a closer look at the pros and cons of raising the minimum wage and examines as well other methods of addressing this huge income gap.
While death and taxes are a certainty, San Diego's fast food, retail, and home care workers are wondering if low wages are too. On this tax day, we will explore what it will take to lift people out of poverty. Our guests are Richard Barrera, CEO of the San Diego Imperial County's Labor Council, and Eric Bruvald, president of the National University System Institute for Policy Research. Richard, you head the local Labor Council. What is life like for San Diego County's low-wage workers?
And let's remember that we're talking about a large number of workers in San Diego. So about 4 out of 10 families live month to month not making enough to actually pay their bills. So that means not being able to afford basic housing, food, transportation, childcare, constantly living in a situation where you don't know if you're going to be able to pay the rent the next month. You don't know if there's going to be enough food on the table for your kids. That's a reality for a large percentage of working people here in our own community.
Eric, there are rallies all over the place today in favor of raising the minimum wage from $9 an hour to $15 an hour. You favor a state-earned income tax credit instead. How would that work?
So an earned income tax credit is basically paid when a tax filer files their taxes and they get back usually everything that they paid and been withheld and actually additional money that usually makes up for what they paid for their payroll tax. It's basically a negative income tax for people that are earning lower incomes or have a large number of children. I mean, that's sort of the formula that's used. And in San Diego County in 2013, about 240,000 1,000 San Diegan families, tax filers, qualified for the EITC, receiving back from the federal government about $2,200. It's very targeted, so it hits families, like Richard said, that are really struggling with those day-to-day expenses, and it works sort of as a de facto savings program. So it helps cover some of the unexpected bills that come up, and that oftentimes working families take out loans or put it on the credit card, that auto repair, and the EITC has been shown as a mechanism by which those debts can be paid out when it comes in as a lump sum at tax filing time.
So, Richard, is an earned income tax credit alone enough?
No, of course not, and it's not an either-or. There's no debate between. You don't have to choose between an earned income tax credit expansion at the federal level or at the state level, which we support, which President Obama supports, by the way. But President Obama also supports increasing the minimum wage. You have to do both. If you think about a minimum wage worker in San Diego right now working full-time, that's about $15,000 a year. Where to make ends meet, you have to be more than $50,000, $60,000 a year if you're supporting a couple of kids. The most important strategy, though, to combat poverty is to allow workers to form strong unions. And the big part of the rally today that we're seeing home care workers and fast food workers and security guards and others engaged in is increase the minimum wage, but also let workers form a union. In the times in this country where we've had high percentages of workers who are parts of unions, we see workers being able to basically make their ends meet. The difference today between a unionized grocery store worker and a non-unionized grocery store worker is the difference between being able to support your family and make a future for your kids versus living in poverty day to day. So allowing workers to come together, form strong unions, bargain across the table with their employers, and then public policy like increasing minimum wage and earned income tax credit, that's how we lift people out of poverty.
So, Eric, there is an effort at the state legislature level to introduce an earned income tax credit, but critics say that that simply isn't enough and that you've got to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and anything short of that will not lift people who are low-wage workers and major breadwinners of their family. It won't be enough to take them off of public assistance.
Well, I would agree. I mean, I think it's a false dichotomy, as Richard said, to put EITC and minimum wage together. I think the challenge with minimum wage, though, is that it's a pretty broad and blunt instrument. I mean, what we know is that about a third of San Diego families that earn over $60,000 a year have a low-wage worker that's part of that family, whether it's a second income or a kid or what have you, and that 40,000 low-wage workers are part of a family that makes over $100,000 a year. So understand that raising the minimum wage will help the kinds of people that Richard's talking about, but that it also, because it's so broad and it's a scattershot, will also impact other people that we might want to have more targeted public policy toward.
Very quickly, the effort to raise the minimum wage to $11.50 an hour is on the ballot next year for the city of San Diego. Where do you think voters are going to fall on this one?
Voters will support it, and when we make that change, we're going to see about 1 out of every 3 women in San Diego will get a raise. About half of all women who work will get a raise as a result of that minimum wage increase. About half of all Latino families will get a raise. It's low-wage workers are such a large part of our economy that when we all come together and support those low-wage workers, we're going to see the benefits of money coming back into our economy, and we're going to create jobs. Voters will support the increased minimum wage.
We've got to wrap it there. Yeah. Thank you both so much for coming on the program.
Dry conditions and moderate Santa Ana winds have San Diego fire crews bracing for high fire danger tonight. National Weather Service issued a red flag warning for the Inland Valley and mountain areas. It runs from 11 o'clock tonight through 5 tomorrow evening. We could see wind gusts in those areas from 50 to 70 miles per hour. Humidity levels are expected to drop as low as 5%. CAL FIRE says firefighters are prepared.
We have an abundance of grass this year that we haven't seen in several years. If you drive throughout the county, we're seeing grasses, and they're already curing. They're already dying. So we're going to have that fuel in addition to the normal dead fuels and brush that we have throughout San Diego County to deal with this year.
Neighbors are urged to maintain a defensible space around their home and to be extra cautious with outdoor activities. This includes everything from off-roading to mowing your lawn. Again, we are expecting gusty winds over the next few days. Temperatures 80s by the beaches, then temperatures dip into the 70s by Saturday. Sunny and warm inland, 80s there. 60s and 70s expected in the mountains, 80s and 90s for the desert areas. Solana Beach was the site of an emergency helicopter landing today. The Marine chopper was on a routine training flight when an instrument indicating low oil pressure forced the crew to land on the beach. No one was hurt. The chopper was from the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. Marines worked with hazmat teams and civilians to clean up the landing site and check for any toxic material spills. San Diego and Imperial counties have a new Catholic bishop. The 6th bishop of the Catholic Diocese was installed today in a service at St. Therese of Carmel Church. Robert McElroy is the successor to the late Cirilo Flores. McElroy spoke with the news media this morning. He wanted to echo Pope Francis's message on mercy and not judging others.
It's a mystery of the human soul, why men and women so often feel better about themselves when they can find some fault in others, but it is a human reality. And what Pope Francis is saying is we must reject that at all levels of the life of the church and in our own personal lives too. And that's where the mercy comes in, that's where the compassion comes in, that's where the outreach comes in. So that it's a rejection of judgmentalism that I think is at the core of what the Pope is trying to do, because that's what gets in the way of what we talked about earlier, the message of the mercy and the love of God and the church embracing all.
Bishop McElroy says he'll visit all of the parishes in San Diego Diocese in the coming months. A new community court program is giving offenders of petty crimes in San Diego a second chance, allowing them to pay back their debt to the community and avoid jail time. From planting trees to recycling waste and clearing neighborhoods of illegally dumped trash, San Diego's Community Courts program is using resources already in place to help first-time offenders of petty crimes clear their record with no additional cost to taxpayers.
This is a program where the offender owns up to the behavior. There are immediate consequences benefiting the community, as you can see the work that's being done.
San Diego City Attorney's Office launched the program using 2 nonprofit social service agencies with excellent track records, Alpha Project and the Urban Core of San Diego County.
To us, it's been a tremendous blessing. We've had 108 men and women go through this program with 1 dropout. It's 99% success ratio.
We put them to work, and so they're learning their lesson. They made a mistake. It's a mistake that shouldn't follow them the rest of their lives. They're paying back the community. Like Bob said, it is a win-win situation for us all.
The ACLU supports the effort, saying San Diegans overwhelmingly approve Prop 47, reclassifying 6 low-level crimes as misdemeanors.
They were looking for approaches like this, smart, effective, cost-effective approaches that don't set people up to fail, but set people and communities up to succeed.
City Attorney says 2,800 hours of community service have been performed so far, and he plans to expand the program. Community court participants must complete 2 days of service. If they fail to do so, they will be sentenced to jail. We are taking a look at the other side of sexual assault on college campuses. Amitha Sharma has more on 2 San Diego cases where students claim they've been denied due process.
For years, college campuses across the country have been slammed for their handling of sexual assault cases. Rape victims say schools discouraged them from filing sexual assault complaints, delayed investigations, and allowed the alleged rapists to remain on campus and move freely. As bad as those claims are, the accused say schools may be even worse at protecting their rights. Joining me to talk about the issue are criminal defense attorney Dominic Lombardo and San Diego State University lecturer and sex crimes prosecutor Wendy Patrick. Dominic, let's start with you. You've sued San Diego State on behalf of a client by the name of Francisco Sousa, who was accused in December of sexual misconduct against a fellow student. You say his due process rights were violated. How so?
Well, I believe they are being violated. The proceeding still continues. As you know, the Office of the District Attorney declined to prosecute Francisco. However, the university is not beholden to that determination, and they have initiated their own proceeding. I believe that the university has not taken adequate steps to ensure that Francisco's rights are safeguarded. And specifically, I'm talking about the failure to provide any of the information underlying the allegation. I have no witness statements, no reports, none of the information that I would need to clear his name.
But isn't the university obligated to turn that information over to you?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it was promised to me on December 18th. The following day, December 19th, that promise was retracted. Here we are 3.5, 4 months later. I still haven't received the information.
But according to the university's policy, when they conduct investigations like this, they do turn over that information.
It's true. The university takes the position that when the Title IX investigation is completed, a report will be provided to me that will include a summary of the allegation and the findings of fact, conclusions of law made by the Title IX Deputy Director. That's what I will get. I will not get all the witness statements or the information that she relied upon. Then a hearing will be conducted where that report is submitted into evidence. It's my position and firm belief that that rigs the process, because that report will be submitted into evidence without me having any opportunity to challenge the finding of facts before that's entered into evidence. We are left with an empty formality. And the hearing officer, I think, it's fanciful to think that the hearing officer won't adopt the Title IX findings made by the investigator.
Wendy, when there's been a sexual assault on campus, there are two tracks of investigations. There's the criminal justice system, and in this case, the DA's office decided not to pursue a case against Francisco Sousa. But there's also a campus investigation that could lead to an expulsion. What is the standard of proof for that investigation?
It's a great question. I'm glad we're talking about this because there's a lot of confusion about what happens after a campus sexual assault is reported. There's a disciplinary investigation if it is something that is just kept in-house. That is very different from a criminal investigation. The burden of proof in criminal court is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very high standard. That is not the burden of proof on campus, and there's been much made of the yes means yes law that we enacted this year. That really applies to college campuses. It amends the education code, not the penal code. The standard of proof there is preponderance of the evidence, which is much lower. Now, some cases go both routes. So they are investigated on college campus itself, and it's also investigated criminally in criminal court. But there's not only a difference in the burden of proof. There's a difference in the method of investigation. There's a difference in the way the parties are treated, both the accused and the victim. And there are also different rules regarding confidentiality. That is really important because we all know that sexual assault remains one of the most underreported crimes in the world, especially on college campuses. When you talk about confidentiality, that's going to even be more reason that some people choose not to report it criminally.
Okay, well, I want to let Dominic jump in here. Sexual assault is a crime. It's not a mere campus violation. Are campuses equipped to investigate a crime like this?
I think they could be equipped to deal with it if they paid more attention to how to do it properly. I think the criminal courts, the criminal justice model is instructive in these situations. Lawyers play a very meaningful role in the criminal courts, obviously. The standard of proof is different, as Wendy said. We have trials to a jury. But we do have very basic procedural elements there that I think can be adopted readily by the universities. Number one, I think a right to an attorney, and Wendy may agree, is essential to vindicating the rights of an accused. And if the complaining witness wants an attorney present, it could be beneficial to that person as well. Secondly, an exchange of information, the very basic documents that the accused would need to defend himself or herself. That's elementary, and I think it should be provided early in the process as it is in the criminal courts. This is a change that the university could adopt quickly.
And we've got to close it there. Dominique, Wendy, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next news hour, gospel, blues, country, and jazz. Rhiannon Giddens shows off her range in her first solo album. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
The troubled orange and black monarch butterfly population continues to decline. Officials from Canada and Mexico gathered today in San Diego to discuss ways to save the species. Some monarchs winter in San Diego, while others pass through on their way to Canada or Mexico. U.S. Fish and Wildlife says herbicides have played a role in the dwindling number of monarchs. The agency is encouraging people to plant milkweed in their yards because that's where the monarch lays its eggs. In the middle of the desert, a few hundred people live without electricity or running water in a squatter community called Slab City. KPBS reporter Angela Carone and video journalist Katie Shulove introduce us to a community of artists fighting to keep their land and their art.
Drive past Slab City's piles of abandoned trash, empty lots, and old trailers, and you eventually end up at East Jesus.
If you follow me this way, I'll show you our Zen garden.
It's a special night, the annual celebration of East Jesus' founder. The night begins with gluing trash to planks of wood.
Anybody else need a screw gun? Sure.
They call it the Art Slam.
It is a valid stylistic choice, and I approve.
Jen Nelson has lived at East Jesus for over a year. She's the curator.
And so one of the things that we're looking at here, one of the things that we really engage in, is how can we take what would go in a landfill, either make it useful again, or make it enhance our lives in another way through the creation of art.
Art and sustainability are central to the East Jesus philosophy. You see it everywhere. There's trash hanging from trees and walls built out of old bottles. Nothing's off limits for reuse. The wood planks from the Art Slam will go on this tower. It will become part of the East Jesus Sculpture Garden. The whole place is the vision of this guy, a Burning Man regular named Charlie Russell. Russell was known for hanging out naked. He died of a heart attack in 2011.
When Charlie Russell first came out to the slabs, this was the messiest, most trash-strewn corner. It is the furthest corner.
Russell invited artists to make work for the garden. This piece is made out of recycled tires. This one out of chicken wire and plastic bags.
Charlie took an abandoned field of trash and turned it into a place for contemporary art.
There's no shortage of trash in Slab City. Artist Jessie the Elder is passing through. She took that name when she was 16 because she wanted to be taken more seriously.
Everyone litters here. It's like a junkyard.
She found this t-shirt among the trash and plans to wear it.
I'm going to wash this in the canal later.
She finds Slab City and East Jesus inspiring.
It's incredible. The people here are extraordinary and they're really free. They have a lot of space to be creative.
Resourcefulness extends beyond art at East Jesus. They live off the grid. There's no running water, electricity, or sewer system. They recycle their own waste, and they grow most of their own food.
We try to focus on things that are either exotic varieties or very efficient varieties, sometimes both, and things that we're getting the most nutritional value of for the water we're using.
Like Slab City, East Jesus residents are squatting on state-owned land. When word got out the state wanted to sell the land, Nelson set up a nonprofit and put in an application to buy it. She's worried a solar or geothermal company will try and get there first.
And we're not going to wait until the bulldozers show up. This means too much.
It will take months before the state decides whether to sell, and then East Jesus residents will have to raise money to purchase the land. After the sun goes down, the sculpture garden comes to life.
We are going to marry a man, going to marry a man. The man will be rich, the man will say bitch.
The evening's entertainment includes 3 costume women from Amsterdam. The band is called Snow Apple.
Oh, darling, marry me soon, darling, marry me soon. Oh, darling, marry me soon, marry me soon.
If you feel like coming forward and grabbing a chocolate martini, non-alcoholic is over here.
Dessert is a chocolate martini, Charlie Russell's signature drink.
To the First Church of the Chocolate Martini and Charlie Russell.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention turned behind you, we'll now have the ceremonial lighting of the barbecue.
In case you didn't hear that, Nelson said barbecue, as in lighting a car on fire. The switch for the flamethrower is a plastic baby doll.
Squeeze the baby!
After a few failed attempts, the old car goes up in flames. It burns for a while, mesmerizing the crowd. Then, nearby Nyland's fire truck arrives, a stark reminder of the outside world. The same outside world threatening the future of East Jesus.
East Jesus has a larger message of hope and living within the future that we've created for ourselves. It has a larger message about sustainability, about art, about who we are as people. And that's what we can't afford to lose.
Angela Carone, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.